The moment it happened, the stadium fell into a silence so sharp it felt like the whole world stopped breathing. One pitch, one brutal, unforgiving pitch, cut through the air and struck Yamamoto square in the face. And for a heartbeat, nobody moved. The crowd's roar died instantly, replaced by a chilling gasp that washed over the field like a cold wave. Even the commentators lost their voices, stunned by the violence of that single impact. Yamamoto dropped to one knee, his glove slipping from his hand, and the sound it made hitting the dirt felt heavier than any bat crack of the night. His teammates froze, eyes wide, fear tightening every muscle in their bodies. Across the mound, the batter who had unintentionally launched the ball stood paralyzed, his bat hanging like dead weight from his fingers. You could see the horror on his face. This wasn't supposed to happen. And then the camera zoomed in. Yamamoto lifted his head, slow, shaky, dazed, but his eyes were open. For a moment the world exhaled. Trainers sprinted out, cleats thundering across the dirt, medical bags bouncing, hands waving desperately for space. The home crowd watched in a stunned trance, completely unsure if they'd just witnessed a season-ending disaster. The replay flashed on the big screen. Too fast, too brutal. The ball whipped off the bat like a bullet and smashed into Yamamoto's cheek. Some fans winced and turned away. Others covered their mouths. But Yamamoto, he pushed the trainers aside. He tried to stand. The stadium buzzed, confusion mixing with concern. No one expected him to get up. No one expected him to try. And yet there he was, wobbling, hands trembling, but refusing to collapse. His teammates surrounded him, forming a wall of concern, but Yamamoto raised a hand, calm, sharp, defiant. He didn't want help. He wanted space. He wanted to show he was still there, still breathing, still fighting. Then something happened that nobody, not even the commentators, saw coming. The opposing crowd, deep in enemy territory, suddenly rose to their feet. It started slow, a reluctant murmur, a handful of claps here and there. But then it spread like wildfire, echoing through the stadium in a rising wave of admiration. They weren't cheering their team. They were cheering him. Yamamoto, the visiting pitcher, the outsider, the man who had taken a ball to the face and still refused to fall. The applause grew louder, louder than any home run celebration that night. Fans were shouting his name, slapping the railings, lifting their arms high. A stadium that moments earlier had been hostile now felt united in awe. And Yamamoto felt it. He blinked through the pain, steadied his breath, and slowly lifted his arm to acknowledge the crowd. It wasn't a dramatic gesture, just a small, grateful nod. But that tiny movement sent the arena into chaos. The roar was thunder, pure, human, electric. You could see players on both sides stop and watch, stunned by the shift in energy. Rivalry had vanished. Competition had evaporated. For this moment, everyone was on the same team, the team of respect. The trainers checked him again, insisting he sit, insisting he rest, insisting that no athlete could take that kind of hit and stay in the game. But Yamamoto shook his head. He wanted one more test. He walked a few steps, then a few more, each stride steadier than the last. The camera caught every detail. The grit in his eyes, the tightness of his jaw, the way he refused to let pain dictate his story. Fans couldn't believe it. Commentators couldn't explain it. And even his own teammates looked stunned by the sheer stubbornness of this man. But behind the toughness, behind the determination, there was something deeper, something every athlete understands. The moment you take a hit like that, the world tests you. Your body trembles, your vision spins, your heartbeat rings in your ears. But your spirit, the part of you that refuses to break, steps forward. And Yamamoto's spirit was unshakable. Then the coach made the call. Yamamoto wouldn't continue pitching tonight, not after a hit like that. The medical staff needed to check him thoroughly, and no amount of bravery could override protocol. But the walk back to the dugout, that was legendary. Every step he took, the stadium thundered louder. Every breath he drew, The fans shouted his name again, louder, prouder, more unified than ever. He wasn't their player, he wasn't their hero, but in that moment, he belonged to them. As he crossed the foul line, he paused and looked back at the mound, the battlefield where everything had changed in an instant. The dust, the lights, the tension, all of it settled into the kind of memory only a true competitor could carry. The camera stayed on him as he disappeared into the tunnel, the applause still shaking the stadium behind him. And in that dim hallway, away from the roar, Yamamoto finally exhaled, a deep, trembling breath that carried shock, relief, and a quiet pride. He wasn't just hit, he wasn't just hurt, he was tested, and he had won. The game resumed, but nothing felt the same. Players moved with a little more caution, a little more respect. Fans watched with a deeper appreciation for the fragility and courage of the athletes in front of them. Even after the final out, the moment everyone discussed wasn't the score, or the home runs, or the strikeouts. It was Yamamoto, the hit, the silence, and the explosion of applause that followed. Because some moments in sports don't just define games, they define people. They remind us why we watch, why we care, why these stories matter. And tonight, Yamamoto gave the world a story it would not forget. A story of pain, a story of courage, a story of a stadium divided, becoming one. And long after the lights went out and the field emptied, fans kept talking, replaying the moment, shaking their heads in disbelief. Not because of the hit, but because of the heart. And that, more than any pitch he ever throws, is what makes Yamamoto unforgettable.